Hey y'all, this is Shauna. Welcome back to Live the Season Life. I'm happy to have you here. And I am, as you can see, driving. So bear with me as I share a few things with you. I wanted to come on here and talk about something that I get asked a lot about. And I'm honored that I get asked about it because it, shows that people trust me, which I highly appreciate and value. And so I just wanted to share a few tips with you that I have learned because I've dealt with it for a number of years, dare I say at least a decade. And it has to do with, oh geez. Oh my word. Oh gosh, that was scary. This man was walking his toddler and she turned and proceeded to run out into the street. And thankfully, I was able to break in time to where there was no incident. And the father was clearly grateful, but that was a heart attack. I mean, whew, thank God I wasn't speeding or anything. I mean, that was, yes, I know. Anyway, I apologize for the lighting. It is dusk right now. It's about 5:30. Gather thyself. All right, so where I was headed was I'm honored that people ask me these questions because it indicates trust, and trust is very, very valuable, and I appreciate it. I truly do. I'm humbled by it, actually. So for the past at least decade, if not longer, I have dealt with GERD, which is gastroesophageal reflux disease. That's a mouthful. Acid reflux. Basically, I don't know if this is the technical way to describe it, but I consider it to be chronic acid reflux that I have to consistently manage every single day of my life. And I don't mind managing it. It is not a burden for me. In fact, it's actually more of a burden for me to not manage it because it creates all kinds of issues that are frustrating for me as it relates to just quality of life overall. And I think that's one thing that people have to realize is that managing conditions and changing your diet and changing your food habits is not, that part's not the burden. The burden is the outcome of not managing it. And that's the part that you really have to value more than, eating all the yummy stuff and all the good stuff that you would normally eat in your diet. So I want to give this quick disclaimer. I am not a nutritionist. I am not a medical professional. I am someone who has dealt with this for a very long time and who has done a lot of research on nutrition and a lot of research on healthy eating habits and plant-based, hopefully plant-based lifestyles and things. So this is purely based on my layperson research. This is not based on any sort of medical or nutritional expertise. And I highly recommend that you seek your medical professional or your otherwise properly trained and licensed professional before you embark upon any sort of diet changes, if that makes sense for you. So I just had to put that out there. And again, apologize for the darkness here with it being dusk and I'm driving under a bunch of trees. So the way I found out that I had GERD was I was going through this period. We lived in San Francisco at the time. I don't think we had kids. No, we didn't have kids yet. So yeah, it's actually been, my daughter's 13, so it had to have been at least more than 13 years ago. We were living in San Francisco, and I kept finding that I was coughing all night long, like all night long. It got so bad that I made the very extremely dangerous decision to go to sleep with cough drops, and that's dangerous. I do not recommend it. I do not think you should do it. I should not have been doing it. The reason it's dangerous is because it's very easy to aspirate and choke in your sleep, and then you are no longer alive when you have things in your mouth when you're going to sleep. But that was the only way that I could find relief. And I don't know what persuaded me. It was not a good decision. And when I told my doctor that that's what I had been doing, he thought it was absolutely nuts. So anyway, I was coughing all night, not getting quality sleep. And so I finally went to my primary care physician, and that person, gave me some suggestions that did not help. And then they referred me to a GI specialist, a gastrointestinal specialist. So anyone that deals with the whole gastrointestinal tract, all the way from your mouth where it starts, all the way to your anus where it ends. And so this gentleman who I saw, who was very thorough, and I appreciate him being thorough, the first thing he thought was interesting, and actually my primary care thought was interesting as well, was the fact that I'm a relatively fit person. I am not overweight. I, do not carry the visible physical distinguishing characteristics of someone who has suffered with acid reflux. So, for that reason, my physicians felt that, it was reasonable for me to embark upon, changes in diet and lifestyle. Because of the fact that I already lead a healthy lifestyle, they, felt fairly confident that it was something that I could do and keep up with in order to rectify the situation. And so I started on that path. And some of those changes were, to limit coffee, like not drinking coffee after a certain hour, which, mind you, at that time I was working for a Big Four consulting firm. So drinking coffee late into the afternoon to stay up to be able to do all the work, which is not good habits. That was part of my daily, and it never occurred to me at any point that drinking coffee after hours was a bad. I mean, I figured that it would keep me awake, but I didn't think that it would have any other consequences. So his thing was, you got to back off the coffee. And at the time, I think I was having 2 cups of coffee a day, which actually isn't really that bad, but it is what it is. So back off the coffee. And then he was like, well, no more pizza, nothing fried, nothing with red sauce, no tomatoes, no onions. And I'm looking at him like, you've got to be joking me. And mind you, I'm not a huge pizza eater anyway, but it was not uncommon, as it is for most corporate offices, that somebody brings in pizza, or they call in pizza or whatever, and you just grab a couple slices, whatever you're going to eat, and call it a day. I had long since, been off of pork. So I stopped eating pork when I was, I think, a sophomore in college. And that's a whole other story for a whole other day. But I had already gotten off pork, so it wasn't like I had to, get rid of pepperoni and sausage and things like that. Like I said, I had already been eating a more healthy, more, veggie forward diet. So it wasn't as if I had to completely upend everything that I was eating. But it did mean that, those kind of things that you grab and go real quick, like a slice of pizza, all that had to go. So I went about the business of making those changes, and nothing was really budging. I was still coughing all night. So then he decided to put me on 2 medications. And again, talk to your medical professional before you start taking medications to figure out what is right for you. But what worked for me at that time was to take Prilosec in the morning, and then in the evenings, before, he said at least 30 minutes before I have dinner, to take Zantac. Both of these are over-the-counter medications. And so I did that. And the thing about Prilosec is that you have to take it in the morning, first thing, and you have to let it marinate in your body. You have to take it at least 30 minutes before you have your first meal or first, drink of the day that's not water. So that's what I did. And so I did the Prilosec. I think I did the Prilosec for 2 weeks, which is about the run of Prilosec to kind of get to healing. And that didn't work. So then he had me do Prilosec and Zantac. So Prilosec in the morning, Zantac in the evening. And that helped. I mean, it was improving, but it wasn't going away. That was the issue. And that's kind of what I had to do for a period of time until the condition went away or was managed. And on top of that, it was at a point where he advised that I actually have a colonoscopy or an upper endoscopy to figure out if there were any sort of like physical issues or changes or so on that was causing me to kind of have these issues with reflux. And I should say, when you have reflux, basically what's happening is that the stomach acids, the acids in your stomach are coming up your esophagus and creating this sort of burning sensation in your esophagus, and or causing you to constantly cough or try to cough up whatever is going on in your upper esophagus. It's uncomfortable. A lot of people get it. Most people consider it to be like heartburn. But that's basically reflux. So I went and had this upper endoscopy. At that time, they discovered that I had a small, I'm not going to call it a defect or anything, but basically there's the flap that keeps things in your stomach and out of your esophagus was not closing properly, but it wasn't a very significant issue. But it could have been, just big enough to be causing me issue. So nevertheless, Prilosec, Zantac until the thing went away. And then after that, it was a matter of, he was like, well, now that it's under control, which it did get under control, he told me that I could continue taking the Prilosec and the Zantac, but me being the person that I am, I'm not interested in taking medication if I don't have to. And I would much rather go the diet, diet change, lifestyle change route. So that's what I pursued. And in doing my research, I found there were a few things that I had to do if I wanted to keep this under control. And quite frankly, I would much rather make the dietary changes than I would take the medication on a long-term basis. So here's what I do to keep my GERD under control. I'm not 100% 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 on these. I do have cheat days sometimes, but I cheat in context of realizing the consequences of it. And also, if I'm going to cheat on certain things, I'm not going to compound them. So I'm not going to, for example, have, fried chicken tenders 3 days in a row. Like, that's just crazy. I'm not going to go and, eat chips, or eat, French fries, 2 or 3 days in a row, because I know that, maybe one day I get French fries, but after that, I need to be on the straight and narrow. So here's what I do. I significantly limit fried foods. I am from Georgia, grew up eating fried chicken and pork chops like most people in Georgia, who was born during my era. And, I do fry foods for my family should they want them. We don't do a lot of frying. I do a lot more baking and broiling and things like that. But fried foods is a no-go for me. I'm not going to eat them. If we go to Chick-fil-A or a fast food restaurant because we're on the road and we're traveling and we need to get a quick meal, I am not getting whatever the fried option is. If it's a place like Cane's, for example, that serves chicken tenders, I'm just not eating. And my husband will tell you, if there are no options for me to eat, I would rather just not eat. That's just who I am. That is how I'm built. So that is a situation with fried foods in me. And the reason is because all of that grease, it's just extra, it just adds to the stomach acid. And also it's so slick, it doesn't allow everything to stay where it's supposed to stay in terms of your stomach acids. So grease, fried foods, limit them, get rid of them altogether if you can. So nothing fried. Air fryer stuff is okay, because air fryer, you're not adding oil to it. So it's just when you're adding that much oil, that's where it makes a difference. Can I use olive oil or something to kind of coat veggies and things before I roast them? Yes, that is fine, but not an excessive amount of olive oil, just enough to get them roasted. So fried foods, limit those. Let me see if this makes a difference. Oh, look at that light. Fried foods, no. Dairy is an issue for me, not only because of the reflux, but it's also an issue for me because I'm partially lactose intolerant. I discovered that the hard way. I remember the day like it was yesterday. I went to Starbucks during work. This was easily 15 to 20 years ago. And I call myself getting a latte. I got that latte. I drank the latte. The latte was delicious. But it wasn't but 15 minutes later. I was like, I got to clock out of work. Like, I can't even be here anymore. It was bad. So I found out the hard way that I can't do dairy because it really irritates my stomach. So getting rid of dairy was not a big issue for me. Getting rid of cheese is not a big issue for me because, it's not just the acid reflux and the grease of it or the oil that's in cheese. It's the lactose, it's the dairy part of it. So, I highly limit cheese. There are some cheeses that you can eat, and I can't recall exactly what they are, but the cheeses that tend to not bother me so much include goat cheese. Goat cheese is generally not an issue for me. Feta cheese, blue cheese to an extent. So Chick-fil-A has a market fresh salad. It has blue cheese on it. That doesn't really bother me. So those are the cheeses that I can pretty much deal with. Gorgonzola, I'm usually not going to fuss with it. Most of the cheese that I will eat is vegan or plant-based cheese. So if you see me putting Parmesan on something, I guarantee you it's from that brand Follow Your Heart. It's absolutely delicious. And in fact, my daughter, who is a big cheese eater, she loves Follow My Heart Parmesan cheese more than she likes conventional Parmesan cheese. So that's it with the dairy. Another thing that I do, I limit caffeine. I didn't talk about caffeine. So caffeine is acidic. Caffeine is highly acidic. So when you're dealing with gastroesophageal reflux disease or acid reflux or heartburn, you want to get rid of anything that's hyperacidic. There are some fruits and vegetables that are on the more acidic side, as I understand it. Of course, like lemons and oranges, that's a no-brainer that those are acidic. So if you're flaring up, of course, you want to stay away from those. But coffee is terribly acidic. Sodas are very acidic as well. So that's going to exacerbate your GERD issues. I had to give up coffee altogether. It is what it is. I tried my best to, try drinking. I had to tear down. So I went from two cups of coffee a day to 1 cup of coffee a day to a smaller cup of coffee a day to no coffee a day. And I was miserable about it because I really did enjoy kind of the ritual of coffee, but I can't do it. So I ended up switching to hot tea. And Earl Grey was the other man in my life for a long time. Earl Grey tea. Earl Grey he was my dude. And then I found English breakfast, and I've been on an English breakfast kick for a number of years now. So I can drink 2 cups of English breakfast tea in a day, and that is fine for me, and it does not bother my GERD. Now, if I am having a flare-up, I will back off of the tea for a little bit until I can get things under control. So caffeine and highly acidic items, limit those. So we've covered dairy, we've covered greasy stuff, fried stuff, we've covered acidic stuff. Another thing to consider is kind of from a lifestyle perspective. So when you eat, you need to give your body at least 2 to 3 hours. I like to err on the side of 3 to 4 hours to digest before you go from being, standing up to lying down in the bed. That is because as soon as you lie down, all of that acid that's in your stomach, the gravity allows it to more easily ease up your esophagus and create havoc. So give yourself plenty of time between eating and lying down, or even eating and working out, because if you eat and then you go start bouncing up and down working out, then of course that acid is bouncing up and down, and that's causing issue too. So limit your activity. I mean, of course, if you want to take a long walk after dinner, that's totally fine, but nothing that's highly vigorous, and certainly not lying down. So give yourself plenty of time to digest. I tend to eat dinner ridiculously early. So, I mean, there are times that I may eat 7:30 or 8 o'clock, but those are few and far between. Like, I really have to be hungry. If it has passed, 5 o'clock and I haven't had dinner yet, I'm more likely to just not have dinner, because I know that if I have dinner too late, I'm not going to be able to sleep. I'm going to be restless. It's going to be very frustrating and annoying. So during those times, things that I will do, I might have like a Crystal Light, or I might have, this is tricky because sometimes this can cause issue for GERD as well if you're not careful, like a bubbly or flavored carbonated water, so that those bubbles can fill up my stomach and give the illusion of filling. But of course, I make sure to follow with a very hefty breakfast the next day, because who wants to miss dinner unnecessarily? So that's what I deal with when it comes to dinner in the evenings. I typically have dinner around 5 or 6 o'clock at the latest. My husband, for date night, when we make reservations, my husband consistently eats at 7 p.m. every single night. I will not be eating at 7 p.m. every night, because he is a gentleman. He will either make dinner reservations for earlier, or if there isn't a reservation available earlier and it has to be like at 7:30, he'll ask me first, like, are you okay with that? And I'm fine. Like, I just want to spend time with him on a date night. I don't really care. And I'm even willing to, eat beforehand. And then when we go out, he can have his meal and I'll just have, something to drink or whatever. Just so that we can still get the reservation at the restaurant that we want to be at, where we want to dine. So there is that. So, kind of that body modification, that lifestyle change of the timing of when you eat is very, very important. Also, the lifestyle change of making sure that you give your body enough time upright to digest, is critically important. Now, when I'm dealing with a flare-up, one thing I've done is to get a wedge pillow. It's a pillow that looks like a big wedge of cheese. And what it does is it allows me to sleep with my head elevated. Is it comfortable? As comfortable as it can be. If you're one of those cool people that has that Sealy Posturepedic bed that kind of elevates the head anyway, good for you. But, by elevating your head, what you're doing is you're allowing your body the benefit of gravity, allowing things to flow down into your stomach versus up into your esophagus. So I do have a wedge pillow. I do use it if I need to for a flare-up. I will go to sleep with it. My husband, it drives him crazy because he says that I look so uncomfortable. I found one that actually is more comfortable. Actually, I found it at Marshall's Home Goods. It's the CNC brand. I think it stands for California and Company or something. I don't know. But I happened to see it and I grabbed it because it was soft. It was plush. It was a lot more soft and plush than the other wedge pillow that I had. But definitely invest in a wedge pillow if GERD is an issue for you. And let me think, is that everything? So we covered dairy, we covered greasy foods, fried foods. We covered, what did we cover? Oh my gosh. Comment down below the list of what we covered because clearly I'm having a moment and I can't remember. I think, is that all that I do? Yeah. And this is important. Red, anything red. You're not going to find me eating a whole bunch of spaghetti. For a while, I could even eat my own spaghetti without an issue. I could eat my own homemade pizza without an issue. But over time, nope, not doing it. There is a really nice Italian restaurant not too far from us that happens to be owned by one of our neighbors who is a sommelier, and delicious restaurant. I can't go there that much because the only thing I can eat there is a salad because everything is covered in cheese and or pasta sauce. But it's a great restaurant. Oh, speaking of fried foods, butter. Calm down on the butter. You don't need a lot of Alfredo sauce and buttery, everything greasy. Calm down on that because that will definitely exacerbate your reflux. But going back to the pasta sauce, pizza will flare me up like nobody's business. I will not eat pizza. I just won't do it. I will not eat spaghetti. I'm more inclined to eat spaghetti than I am pizza if I had to. But it's more of I'm cooking spaghetti for my family. I want to taste the sauce and make sure it's seasoned properly. That's the only instance under which I'm eating spaghetti. When we go out to a restaurant, no sauce. I would rather take buttered noodles, and even the buttered noodles is suspect because too much butter is the devil for me when it comes to reflux. So, I'm not eating a lot of red stuff. I'm not eating a lot of marinara sauce. Pesto sauce, which that is a bummer. My gosh, I love a good pesto sauce. If you've been following me for any period of time, you know that I grow a lot of basil. So pesto sauce is something that I really enjoy making and tasting because it's just delicious. But pesto sauce is not my friend. She is not my friend. So, and I can't figure out what it is because it's not like pesto has a lot of extra. When I make it, it doesn't have a ton of extra oil in it. Like I put just enough for it to have the right consistency. And I use vegan Parmesan cheese. I don't know what it is about pesto sauce that makes it so acidic or whatever it is. Maybe it's the basil. I need to research and figure it out. In fact, if you happen to know, is basil acidic? Herbs in general, are they super acidic? Comment down below if you happen to know, because I need to discover that for myself. But I'm not doing a lot of pesto sauce either. I'm extremely mindful about what I eat. And if people question me about it, or they're in the space of, well, go on, it's just a little bite, it's not going to bother you, or it's not going to hurt you, or you can afford the calories. No, it is not about affording the calories or not. It's about me being able to sleep well tonight. And I would much rather annoy you and sleep well than I would to appease you and eat something that I know my body is actively telling me that it does not like. So that is kind of how I approach things. And I don't apologize for it. I mean, I don't think I ever apologized for it. I think I've always been so headstrong when it comes to what I eat and why I eat what I eat that I don't need to eat the things with the people in order to get along. Like, if I have to eat the pizza to be your friend, then we ain't gonna be friends. So that's just who I am. So in any case, that is kind of my rundown of how I deal with acid reflux and GERD. And I think that's important to share, especially during the holidays, because we're all eating all kinds of stuff. Oh, the last thing, I know I keep saying one more thing, but the more I think about it, the more multifaceted it is. Also making sure you're not too full, because if you overstuff your stomach, it also is going to create issue with, there's nowhere else for the food to go. So it kind of sits in your esophagus and eventually just kind of the acid creeps up. So make sure you're not overstuffing yourself and getting too entirely full or eating too much food. I may be able to be stuffed on something for, one meal, but 2 meals in a row. In fact, I'm dealing with a flare up today because yesterday I went and got a grilled chicken pita, and it was delicious. And I didn't feel like stopping eating it. And I messed around and flared up my GERD. So now I have to take Prilosec for 2 weeks to calm it down, which at this point, because it's a single offense, it's not going to take me 2 weeks. It'll probably just take me 3 or 4 days of taking Prilosec and I'll be fine. But that's a mistake that I made. It is what it is. So, try to not overstuff yourself. As I understand, it takes your body, 15 minutes of time before the signal gets from your stomach to your brain that tells you, hey, friend, I'm full. So, just be mindful when you're eating. Look at your portion sizes. And if it looks like a lot of food, then take your time eating that food. And it's better to kind of put some away first than to, just eat it all at once. And it's also better to make sure you're drinking a lot of water, so you're flushing things through your body and filling your body with water if that's what your body is actually craving, versus trying to hurry up and fill it with food that your body may not need and that may cause issue in the long run. So all of that to say, that is how I deal with GERD. I hope that's helpful to you. Comment down below, are you dealing with acid reflux or GERD? I'm just curious to know what your situation, your story is, and also if there are things that you do to manage your GERD, or if, medication is the best route for you, which if that's your route, by all means, I support it. Whatever it takes for you to get to healthy, that's all that's important to me. Not taking medications is something that I prefer, but it's not what everybody prefers. My husband actually takes, telling all his business, my husband actually takes Prilosec, and he has no problem taking Prilosec, but I don't want to be committed to medicine like that. So that's just me. And Prilosec and omeprazole are the same thing. Prilosec is just the brand name. Anywho, I'm going to stop because I need to run into the restaurant and grab my kids' food and get home. But I wish you a lovely evening or lovely morning or wherever you are. For me, clearly it's obviously evening, as you can see. But I hope that you have a lovely evening wherever you are, and all the best to you. As always, live season, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.